Welcome back. In this episode, I'm going to show you how you can use the tools in the cut page to help you reformat your videos to a vertical aspect ratio appropriate for uploading to TikTok and YouTube Shorts. Here's an edit I've completed in the edit page. The footage was shot and edited in the usual 16:9 aspect ratio for use on YouTube. But now I need to reformat it for use on TikTok as a vertical video. So this content needs to be reformatted to a vertical aspect ratio of 9:16. Over the years I've been asked to do this sort of thing a lot and it's rarely straightforward. Thankfully though, the cut page in DaVinci Resolve actually has some handy tools to make this a little easier. Okay, so I'm going to press Shift-3 to switch to the cut page. And let me just resize the viewer to better see what I'm doing. From the timeline menu, I will choose Find Current Timeline in Media Pool. I'll duplicate this timeline, and now I'll rename it so we know that this is the right timeline, and then I'll open it in the viewer. Next, I'd like to get a sense as to which of these shots would work for the new aspect ratio, which might need a little bit of attention, and which might just simply not work at all. I'll do this by enabling the Safe Area guides at the top of the viewer, and in the menu, I'll just enable the 9:16 aspect ratio, but disable the default 1.33 for broadcast. This shows a guide as to which shots will fit the new aspect ratio and which won't. Okay, so I'm just going to change the clip color of some of these clips in the timeline. And the reason I'm going to do this is because in the cut page, in the full timeline, all the clips look the same. There's no thumbnails. And this will just help me identify which clips I want to work on. So I'm going to start by selecting the two graphic clips, so I know that they'll need a bit of attention. And in the detailed timeline, I'm just going to right click those selected clips and change the clip color to orange. I'm going to do the same thing for the interviews as well. I know that that's the other interview clip. And again, I'm going to do the same thing and I'm going to change their clip color to apricot. Okay, and now for the more challenging clips. Let me select this clip of these guys walking, this one of them smiling at the camera, this one of the guy jumping onto the rock, and this final shot of the exterior of the store, and I'm going to color code them. I'm in a purplish mood today. Great. So now I'm going to change my timeline from the regular 16:9 aspect ratio to the 9:16 aspect ratio for vertical video. And in the cut page, this is ridiculously easy. Clicking on this menu at the top of the viewer lets me switch the timeline to different aspect ratios. Now I'm sure you're looking at this and thinking, hey Chris, there's an option there for portrait, which of course is for vertical video. And you'd be right. Sure enough, if you click this option, the timeline switches aspect. But as you can see, there are these black lines at the top and bottom of the viewer showing where the 16:9 footage has been adjusted to fit the new aspect ratio. Don't worry, this is easy fix, but let me just switch this timeline back to full HD first. Instead, from the same menu, I'm now going to choose Custom Timeline Settings. As you can see, this timeline is not currently using the project timeline settings as I just adjusted it. If yours is, you'll need to uncheck this option to use project settings in order to be able to further customize the settings for this timeline. This time, I'm just going to click this option to use the timeline's current resolution, but in a vertical aspect ratio, which is appropriate for TikTok. You'll also notice when I click on this, the option further down has also changed to use full frame with crop. So instead of the black bars at the top and bottom of the frame, I'll actually be losing footage off both sides. I'll just click OK. And now I've got myself a vertical timeline with all the footage cropped to the center and no annoying black bars. Now I haven't lost that crop footage, it's still there, it's just outside the viewable area of the timeline. But before I go all out and start reframing these shots, there's one more thing that I want to change. Under the playback menu, I'm going to enable this option. Stop and go to last position. What this option does is actually allow me to play the timeline back as I would normally, but every time I stop, it will return the playhead back to where it started. Okay, let's start with the graphic at the beginning. As you can see, it's a little large for the new aspect ratio due to the change I've just made. So I'll open up the inspector and head to the Retime and Scaling options. Let's switch both graphic clips back to fit so that it fits the vertical aspect ratio. I'll do the same with the graphic at the end, also resetting its size and position changes that had been made previously. Then I can select both graphics and reposition them appropriately. Whilst I'm here, you'll notice that the text plus title has already been scaled to fit, so I'll just change its size so the hashtag is easier to read. Right, so let's start reframing some of this other footage, and I'll begin with the interviews as they were the most straightforward. This shot here obviously needs moving to the left slightly, so I'm going to open up the Cut Pages tools and just use the X position control to recenter our interviewee. That's better, and you can see the box indicating where the frame boundary of the original footage is. The other two interview clips are both from the same camera angle, and although they're not exactly the same framing, they're close enough that I can select both of these clips and use the same control to center them up together. I see this one needs a little bit more encouragement. So now you've seen how simple this is, let's take a look at some of the other shots. This shot I think we get away with, but we can just nudge him slightly anyway.
Southwest because it's so unique.
Same for this girl swinging these flaming torches.
The culture, the food.
And this shot of the chap standing on the outcrop.
That's what really inspires us.
There's just a couple more shots that I want to check. This shot of the design here. And this shot of the lady hanging the t-shirt up.
Our brand is just really a reflection of our community and who.
Okay, so now I can move on to those more challenging purple shots. And I'll start with this shot
that I have personally ever experienced, whether it's.
So I'm going to create a pan using dynamic zoom. Hands up if you thought that dynamic zoom was only for zooming. In the Cut Page tools, I'll select dynamic zoom and enable it for this clip.
That I have personally ever experienced, whether it's.
That gives me the usual zoom out, which kind of works, but it's a shame to lose so much of the shot. So I'll use the second preset, which is a pan.
That I have personally ever experienced, whether it's the community.
That's nice, but I'll just swap the start and end points and resize the frames, so it's not quite so close.
That I have personally ever experienced, whether it's the community.
And then adjust the start and end positions.
That I have personally ever experienced, whether it's the community.
Finally, I'll add an ease out to the movement.
That I have personally ever experienced, whether it's the community.
Yes, you can add keyframes in the cut page in the inspector, but I find it's easier to adjust their position as well as to adjust the curve into and out of those keyframes by adding them in the edit page. However, I do want to show you one more piece of Resolve magic, although you will need the studio version for this. Here's a shot of the guy jumping on the rocks.
The landscapes.
I'm going to let Resolve do the hard work this time. Smart Reframe uses something called the DaVinci Resolve Neural Engine in order to be able to analyze the footage and reframe it appropriately for you. Now, that said, that's probably more information than you need to know, so I'll just show you instead. In the inspector, open up the Smart Reframe controls and simply click Reframe.
The landscapes. The landscapes.
Wow. Honestly, if you have to do this sort of thing regularly, then that's probably worth the price of Resolve Studio alone. Let's see how Smart Reframe handles this clip.
We want people to
Not bad at all. Seems there's a slight pan, but I think I would prefer just to concentrate on this guy here. Luckily, resetting Smart Reframe is easy, because all Resolve has done is add a series of keyframes to the position controls, so resetting those clears the Smart Reframing. This time I'll just reframe things so our friend is in shot at the start, and to make sure Resolve follows him in the Smart Reframe controls, I'll choose to add a reference point, and then I can put this bounding box over him in the viewer. I'll hit reframe again, and this time it follows our friend through the shot. Finally, let's address another common problem, footage that just simply doesn't fit the new aspect ratio. This final cutaway shot is a classic example, as the original shot was framed around the sign, and so the shot as it is just not going to fit. Rather than just replace the shot, I think zooming in on the doorway might be a good compromise, especially as I know this is UHD footage. So let's open the tools and select the resize controls. And now I can drag this control in the center to reposition the anchor point somewhere around here. Now I'll just adjust the zoom controls to reframe the shot.
brand is just really a reflection of our community and who we are.
Let's see if I can just get the two logos to align.
It's really a reflection of our community and who we are. That's why we...
And with that, we have a fully reformatted timeline. And I can use the quick export window, ready to upload to TikTok. If you enjoyed this video, then don't forget to check out some of my other tutorial videos. And I've also included a link in the description to another video where you can compare the original 16:9 edit to the 9:16 version I've been working on in this video. But until then, take care.